In the following performance, the actors are coming to you live from their individual homes in Eugene, Oregon. Welcome, viewers, to the Readers Theater Players' debut Zoom dramatic offering. We're a branch of Eugene's community playhouse, the Very Little Theater, or VLT, serving Oregon playgoers since 1929. In pre-pandemic times, the Readers Theater Players, the RTP, presented monthly at 8 to 10 senior residences in Eugene. Now, with COVID-19 keeping visitors at bay, we dedicate this program to our loyal senior audiences and offer it as well to all who would hear us perform. Cast members include Scott Barkhurst, Demetri Liontos, Nancy O'Kief, and Sharon Wetterling. I'm Claude Offenbacher, your MC. Thanks to our production and Zoom master, Tim Rogers, RTP leader, Judy Sawyer, and VLT virtual coordinator, Russell Dyball. And now, on with the show. If you're old enough to remember Whippet automobiles, you may either no longer be driving or dealing with physical limitations each time you get behind the wheel. One old-timer tells how he faced the challenge in Life Without Left Turns.
My father quit driving a car in 1927 when he was 25 years old. Last car he drove was a 1926 Whippet. When he was in his 90s, he told me,
"You want to know the secret of a long life?"
"I guess so," I said, knowing it would probably be something bizarre.
No left turns.
What?
No left turns. Several years ago, your mother and I read that most car accidents involving old people happen when they turn left onto oncoming traffic. You know, as your eyesight gets older and you get older, then you have perhaps loss of depth perception. So your mother and I decided never again to make a left turn.
What? I said again.
No left turns. Think about it. 3 rights are the same as a left and a lot safer. So we always make 3 rights.
You're kidding, I said, and turned to my mother for support.
No, your father is right. 3 left turns, 3 right turns. It works, except when your father loses count.
Loses count?
Yeah, that sometimes happens, but it's not a problem. No. We happen, then you just make 7 rights. That's what you have to do, and you're okay again.
Yeah. Do you ever go for 11?
No, we call it at 7, and if we miss it, we just come home and call it a bad day. You know, there's nothing in life so important that it can't wait for another day or another week.
My mother was never in an accident, but one evening when she was 90, she handed me her car keys and said she had decided to quit driving. I miss them a lot, and I wonder now and then how it was that my family and I were so lucky that they lived so long. I can't figure out if it was because they walked together through life or because they quit taking left turns.
Travel by air, facing its own issues these days, has been mined for humor as far back as the 1940s. Remember such classics as, "I just flew in from Chicago and boy, are my arms tired." Here are some more recent and we hope funnier jokes.
You've got to figure you're in trouble when you approach the airport and the first sign you see is terminal.
And this from an airline passenger to me, a flight attendant.
Could you please send this valise to Chicago, the 2-suiter to Minneapolis, and the garment bag to Miami?
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't do that.
Why not? You did it last month.
There's a lot to concern you at an airport. But you really start to worry when you see that the insurance machine is sold out.
I flew a no-frills airline last month. 20 minutes before the flight, we passengers got together to elect a pilot.
Said the flight instructor to the pilot in training, when you experience an in-flight problem, just say you're in contact with the control tower. It scares passengers when you say, I'm hearing voices again.
The other day, a plane was hijacked. A passenger put a gun to the pilot's head and demanded to be taken where his luggage was going.
Then there was a first-class passenger who was worried his plane was being hijacked when his filet mignon was served in pita bread.
And it can be upsetting when you go to the airline counter to complain about lost luggage and the ticket agent is wearing your clothes.
After a harrowing flight, a passenger went over to the ticket agent and said, if I were you, I'd tell the pilot to keep that little red light off. Every time he puts it on, it gets bumpy.
Have you ever flown on Vatican Airlines? The escape instructions are written in Latin so the Catholics can get off first.
The control tower called the new pilot in flight and asked, what is your height and position? And the new pilot came back and said, I'm 6'1" and I'm in the cockpit.
A man walks up to the counter at the airport. Can I help you? Asked the ticket agent. I want a round trip ticket, says the man. Where to? Right back here.
There are those who say a 7-course Irish meal is a 6-pack and a potato. We hope these 2 Irish stories will have you doubling over in laughter.
Patty was driving down the street in a sweat because he had an important meeting to go to and couldn't find a parking place. Looking up to heaven, he said, Lord, take pity on me. If you find me a parking place, I will go to Mass every Sunday for the rest of me life, and I will give up me Irish whiskey. Miraculously, a parking place appeared. Patty looked up again and said, Never mind, I found one.
Father Murphy walks into a pub in Donegal and asks the first man he meets, do you want to go to heaven? The man said, I do, Father. The priest said, then stand over there against the wall. Then the priest asked the second man, do you want to go to heaven? Certainly, Father, the man replied. Then stand over there against that wall, said the priest. Then Father Murphy walked up to O'Toole and asked, do you want to go to heaven? O'Toole said, no, I don't, Father. The priest said, I don't believe this. You mean to tell me when you die you don't want to go to heaven? O'Toole said, oh, when I die, yes. I thought you were getting a group together to go right now.
Gallagher opened the morning newspaper and was dumbfounded to read in the obituary column that he had died. He quickly phoned his best friend, Finney. Did you see the paper? Asked Gallagher. They said I died. Yes, I saw it, replied Finney. Where are you calling from?
Speaking of the Irish, it's said the limerick originated in the Irish town of that name back in the 14th century. But the 4 limericks we have for you today give testimony to their now global content and appeal.
There was a young fellow from Crete who was so exceedingly neat. When he got out of bed, he stood on his head to make sure of not soiling his feet.
A patient who kept getting worse cried out, I must go home now, nurse. You've done all your best and performed every test, but I've come to the end of my purse.
There once was a young man from Lyme who had 3 wives at a time. When asked why a third, he replied, one's absurd, and bigamy, sir, is a crime.
There was a young lady named Harris, whom nothing could ever embarrass, till the bath salts one day in the tub where she lay turned out to be plaster of Paris.
In her poem Legacies, Nikki Giovanni muses on human miscommunication.
Her grandmother called her from the playground. Yes, ma'am. I want you to learn how to make rolls, said the old woman proudly. But the little girl didn't want to learn how because she knew, even if she couldn't say it, that would mean when the old one died, she would be less dependent on her spirit. So she said, I don't want to know how to make no rolls, with her lips poked out. And the old woman wiped her hands on her apron, saying, Lord, these children. And neither of them ever said what they meant. And I guess nobody ever does.
Sadly, we have yet to find a vaccine to prevent COVID-19, but some folks, rather than letting it obsess or depress them, have found humor in the virus. Here's a sample.
My 90-day trial of 2020 is up. Please cancel my subscription.
On the first day of no sports on TV, I found a lady sitting on my couch. Apparently, she's my wife. She and I just had an hour-long conversation. I learned she's really nice. When I told her how thankful I was to have someone I enjoy being quarantined with, she said, that must be nice.
My kids are being homeschooled now. So if you see them out in our garden picking weeds, just know they're on a field trip.
There was a moment when I worried about the elderly, and then I realized I am the elderly.
They told me to go to a grocery store. All I needed was a mask and gloves. They lied. Everyone else had clothes on.
Gasoline finally became affordable, just when I can't go anywhere.
I don't know yet whether I'll come out of this quarantine with my chakras in balance and with a house full of completed crafts projects, or 20 pounds heavier and with a drinking problem. Cheers.
I never thought the put down, I wouldn't touch him with a 6-foot pole, would become national policy. But here we are.
This virus must be targeting scam artists. I haven't had a single call in 3 days about my grandson needing money to get out of jail.
Does anyone know if we can take a shower yet? Or should we just keep washing our hands?
20 years ago, we had Johnny Cash, Bob Hope, and Steve Jobs. Today, the virus has given us no cash, no hope, and no jobs.
Our cleaning lady just called and said she would be working from home. She said she'll send us instructions on what to do.
There are so many Jewish comedians that it's not surprising Jewish humor books are legion. From these come 3 stories we've picked out for you. In her book, The Jewish Joke, Deborah Baum tells of a religious leader who couldn't resist a forbidden dish.
A rabbi who's been leading a congregation for many years is upset. He's never been able to eat pork. It isn't kosher.
So he devises a plan. He flies to a faraway island on the Pacific and checks into a hotel.
He immediately gets himself a table at the finest restaurant and orders the most expensive pork dish on the menu, a whole suckling pig. As he's eagerly anticipating it, he hears his name called from across the restaurant.
He looks up and sees 10 of his loyal congregants arriving. His luck, they've chosen the same time to visit the same remote location.
Just at that moment, the waiter comes out with a huge silver tray holding a whole roasted pig, complete with an apple in its mouth.
The rabbi looks up and at his congregants approaching and says, "Look, wow, you asked for an apple in this place, and look how it's served."
And now a second story with a Jewish theme. We call it Comparative Religion.
Here are some examples. A young Jewish boy, Isaac, starts attending public school in a small town. One day, the teacher asks the class,
Who was the greatest man that ever lived?
a boy raises his hand.
Was it Winston Churchill?
A good answer, but not the answer I'm looking for.
Another young student raises her hand.
Was it Shakespeare?
Still not the answer I had in mind.
Then the new Jewish boy raises his hand.
The greatest man that ever lived was Jesus Christ.
Yes, that's the answer I'm looking for.
He invites Isaac to the front of the class and gives him a lollipop. Later, another Jewish student asks Isaac why he said Jesus Christ.
Look, I know it's Moses and you know it's Moses, but sometimes it's smarter to just give them the answer they're looking for.
As we close out our Jewish humor stories, here's one about the proverbial Jewish mother.
It's 2024, and a Jew has been elected president. He calls his mother in Oregon.
Hi, Ma. It's me. I'm being inaugurated as president. You're coming, aren't you?
But dear, I've got nothing to wear.
Mom, I'm going to be president. I can get you a dressmaker.
Well, I can't eat the food.
Ma, I'm going to be president. I can get you a kosher meal.
So, how am I going to get there?
I can get you on Air Force One. Come to the inaugural.
So she relents and comes to the inaugural. They're on the reviewing stand. Her son, flanked by his newly appointed cabinet members and Supreme Court justices, places his left hand on the Bible, his right hand in the air. His mother nudges a man next to her and says,
You see that guy with his hand up? His brother's a doctor.
Maya Angelou has a message to deliver to another woman in her poem, No Loser, No Weeper.
So I said to her, I hate to lose something. Then she bent her head. Even a dime, I wish I was dead. I can't explain it, no more to be said, except I hate to lose something. I lost a doll once and cried for a week. She could open her eyes and do all but speak. I believe she was took by some doll snatching sneak. And I tell you, I hate to lose something. A watch of mine once got up and walked away. It had 12 numbers on it, and for the time of day. I'll never forget it, and all I can say is, I really hate to lose something. Now, if I felt this way about a watch and a toy, what do you think I feel about my lover boy. I ain't threatening you, madam, but he is my evening's joy. And I tell you, I really, really hate to lose something.
In Missing Persons Report, a distraught husband appears not to know much about his wife, but we soon learn what he really cares about.
My wife is missing. She went shopping yesterday and has not come home.
Age?
I'm not sure. Somewhere between 50 and 60. We don't celebrate birthdays.
Height?
I'm not sure. A little over 5 feet tall.
Weight?
Oh, I don't know. Not slim, not really fat.
Color of eyes?
Sort of brown, I think. Never really noticed.
Color of hair?
Well, changes a couple times a year. Maybe dark brown now. I can't remember.
What was she wearing?
Well, could have been pants or maybe a skirt or shorts. I don't know exactly.
What kind of car did she go in?
Well, she went in my truck.
What kind of truck was it?
Oh, well, it was a 2016 Pearl White Ram Limited 4x4 with a V8 engine, LED lighting, backup and front cameras, sunroof, moose hide leather, climate-controlled air conditioning. Oh, and it's got a custom matching white cover for the bed. I added special alloy wheels and off-road Toyo tires. It even has custom running boards and underglow wheel well lighting.
Take it easy, sir. We'll find your truck.
If you worry about protecting your personal data in the age of the internet, you may be able to identify with our next little skit, Google Pizza.
Hi, is this Guido's Pizza?
Beep. No, sir, it's Google Pizza.
Oh, I'm sorry, I must have had the wrong number. Sorry.
Sir, Google bought Guido's Pizza last month.
Oh, okay, I'd like to order a pizza then.
Do you want your usual, sir?
My usual? You know me?
According to our caller ID data sheet, the last 12 times you called, you ordered an extra large pizza with 3 cheeses, sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms, and meatballs on a thick crust.
Okay, that's what I want.
Beep. May I suggest that this time you order a pizza with ricotta, arugula, sun-dried tomatoes, and olives on a whole wheat, gluten-free thin crust?
What? I detest vegetable toppings.
Your cholesterol is not good, sir?
How do you know?
We cross-referenced your home phone number with your medical records. We have the result of your blood test for the last 7 years.
Okay, but I don't want any of your damn vegetable pizza. I take daily medication for my cholesterol anyway.
Excuse me, sir, but you have not taken your medication regularly. According to our database, you purchased a box of 60 cholesterol tablets once at Drug RX Network. That was 4 months ago.
Hey, I bought more from another drugstore.
Beep. That doesn't show on your credit card statement.
I paid in cash.
But you did not withdraw enough cash according to your bank statement.
I have other sources of cash.
Beep. That doesn't show on your last tax return unless you bought them using an undeclared income source, which is against the law.
What the hell?
I'm sorry, sir. We use such information only with the sole intention of helping you.
Enough already. I'm sick to death of Google, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, and all the others. I'm going to a faraway island without internet, cable TV, or without telephone cable service or cell phone service, and no one to watch me or spy on me.
I understand, sir, but you need to renew your passport first. It expired 6 weeks ago.
And finally, a woman finds it hard to accept that her pet is dead in a story we call Dead Duck.
A woman brings a very limp duck into a veterinary surgeon. As she lays her pet on the table, the vet pulls out his stethoscope and listens to the bird's chest. After a moment or two, the vet shakes his head and says,
I'm sorry, but your duck, Cuddles, has passed away.
Oh, are you sure?
Yes, I am sure. Your duck is dead.
But how can you be so sure? I mean, you haven't done any testing on him. He might be in a coma or something.
The vet rolls his eyes and leaves the room. A few minutes later, he returns with a black Labrador retriever. As the duck's owner looks on in amazement, the dog stands on his hind legs, puts his front paws on the examination table, and sniffs the duck from top to bottom. He then looks up at the vet with sad eyes and shakes his head. The vet pats the dog on the head and takes it out of the room. A few minutes later, he returns with a cat. The cat jumps up on the table and also delicately sniffs the bird from head to foot. The cat sits back on its haunches, shakes its head, meows softly, and strolls out of the room. The vet looks at the woman and says,
I'm sorry, but as I said, this is most definitely a dead duck.
The vet now turns to his computer terminal, hits a few keys, and produces a bill, which he hands to the woman. The duck's owner, still in shock, takes the bill.
What? $150 just to tell me my duck is dead?
I'm sorry, but if you had just taken my word for it, the bill would have been only $20. But with the lab report and the CAT scan, it's now $150.
We hope you enjoyed this virtual Readers Theater Players production brought to you by the Very Little Theater of Eugene. Like other theaters, the VLT is dark this season with no ticket sales due to the virus. So we hope you'll seriously consider a donation at thevlt.com as we seek to reach our 100-year anniversary in 2029. Thank you, and thanks for joining us today.